Beneath the stone arches of the crypt, silence reigned. Lord Damon Arden lay inside his tomb, shrouded in a dark green cloth, embroidered with the sigil of a wolf and a sword. Candles flickered, casting restless shadows on the cold stone floor. His eldest son, Rogan, stood near the casket, eyes locked on the carved lid. His shoulders trembled slightly, not from grief, but from anger burning deep in his chest. Beside him stood his younger brother, Kaer. Draped in a black cloak, Kaer's shape seemed to melt into the darkness of the crypt. He did not look at his father's body. His eyes were fixed on Rogan, weighing how soon he might rip power from his brother's hands. A few steps back stood Aelin the sister. She held a single candle, its flame dancing in the still air like a ghost of secrets yet to come. "Father keeps his silence even in death," Kaer whispered, leaning close to Rogan's ear. "But you, brother, you will scream when you lose the throne." Rogan did not answer. His hand gripped the hilt of his sword until his knuckles whitened. The hush broke when an old man entered, Gildred, the family's faithful advisor. He stepped to the casket and placed an iron ring upon the tomb, the ring of the Arden line. "Lord Rogan," Gildred said, bowing his head, "you are now the head of this house." Kaer's lips curled into the faintest smile. Aelin lowered her gaze to the stones at her feet, shadows dancing over her pale face. Beneath the ancient slabs of the crypt, past the resting bones of forebears long forgotten, something shifted, a whisper of scales against stone, as if the past itself had begun to stir. The great hall of Arden Keep was alive with the hiss and crackle of torches. Heavy beams arched overhead like ribs of a sleeping giant. Rogan sat at the head of the long oak table, the iron ring of his father clutched tight in his fist. His eyes were red, not from tears, but from nights without sleep. Kaer lounged in a chair across from him, tapping his fingers on the polished wood, each tap an unspoken threat. Aelin stood by the window slit, staring into the courtyard where snow fell in lazy spirals. "The Marindors gather men on our borders," Rogan said, voice raw. "We must strike first, ride for their holdfasts before they bring fire to our gates." Kaer's mouth twisted into a slow, cold smile. "Brother, steel and blood are blunt blades when sharper ones lie at hand." Rogan slammed his fist onto the table. The iron ring rattled like a dying bell. "We have swords enough, coin enough. We do not need your schemes." Aelin turned from the window, her shadow stretching across the cold stone floor. "Schemes win crowns, brother. Steel alone buries men in the snow." Rogan glared at her, but her eyes did not flinch. Kaer leaned forward, voice soft as falling ash. "Send riders. Offer the Marindors a false peace. While they feast on our words, I will cut out their tongues in the dark." Rogan rose so fast his chair scraped stone. "We do not deal in poison and lies. We face them on the field, man to man." Kaer's eyes glittered. "As you wish, Lord Rogan. But the world is not forged by the strong. It is shaped by the cunning." Aelin's gaze flicked between them. In her hand she traced invisible runes on her sleeve, old signs older than any man in that hall. Beyond the heavy doors a wind howled through Arden Keep. It carried with it the taste of winter, and something darker that waited beneath stone and... The castle's servants whispered of Kaer in the shadows, how he moved through the halls like a serpent hunting warmth. Tonight he found warmth in a low stone chamber behind the kitchens. There 2 men waited, Bran, the kennelmaster's son, and Oswin, a guard whose loyalty was always for sale. Kaer sat on a barrel, the hood of his cloak thrown back. A single oil lamp painted his face in flickers. "Bran," Kaer said, voice calm, "my brother believes strength comes from steel. I believe it comes from secrets." Bran shifted, eyes darting to Oswin, then back to Kaer. "And what secret would you have me keep, my lord?" Kaer smiled. "Slow, patient, poisonous. Not keep. Deliver. Take this letter to Lord Marindor's men. Tell them we offer terms. Gold, land, and an open gate." Bran's mouth fell open. "Betray Arden Keep? My lord, if Rogan finds out..." Kaer's hand snapped out, seizing Bran's jaw, his thumb pressed hard enough to bruise. "If Rogan finds out, you die. But if you succeed, you'll wear a cloak of silver and feast, while others starve." He let Bran go. The boy gasped for breath, fingers trembling as he took the sealed letter. Oswin said nothing. only watched Kaer with eyes like cold iron. Kaer turned to him. "And you, dear Oswin, you will see that Rogan never learns of this, until it is too late." The lamp flame guttered as a draft swept through the chamber. Kaer rose, shadows swallowing his smile. "Remember," he said softly, "steel cuts flesh, secrets cut kings." Deep in the oldest tower of Arden Keep, Aelin knelt before a circle of runes scratched into the stone floor. Moonlight spilled through the arrow slit, silvering her pale hair and the black ink staining her fingertips. She whispered names no living tongue should speak, names carried through her mother's blood, names older than the wolf on the family crest. Before her a small iron bowl glowed with coals. Into it she dropped a lock of her hair and 3 drops of her blood. The flame hissed, turned blue. "Brother fights brother," she murmured. "Steel and secrets will fall, but I will rise when they lie broken." She pressed her palm to the floor. Beneath the stones, something answered, a hum that shivered her bones and made the coals dance like fireflies. Aelin's eyes fluttered shut. She saw visions. Kaer's betrayal, Rogan's fury, a battlefield soaked in red beneath a pale winter sun. But behind it all, she saw herself, seated on a throne of cold iron, shadows coiled at her feet. A gust of wind blew out the candle by her side. Aelin did not flinch. In the darkness, she smiled. "Let the wolves tear each other apart," she whispered. "I am the storm they never saw coming." In the courtyard at dawn, Rogan stood alone in the snow. His breath rose in steaming clouds, his sword bare in his hands. He drove the blade into a post again and again until the wood split and splintered under the steel. Gildred, the old advisor, approached from the shadows of the keep. His cloak dragged lines in the fresh snow. "My lord," Gildred said softly, "your father's sword will break if you test it more than the enemy does." Rogan turned, sweat freezing on his brow. "I cannot sleep, Gildred. Kaer plots behind my back. The Marindors circle like crows. My sister whispers to shadows." Gildred laid a hand on the young lord's shoulder. "Then face them with iron in your spine. If your kin mean to break you, stand unbroken." Rogan pulled the sword free from the shattered post. Snow fell into the split wood like ashes. "I will not be broken," Rogan said. "I swear by my father's bones, by this keep stones, by the blood in my veins." He lifted the blade skyward. The rising sun caught the steel and turned it to fire. "No traitor shall stand, no false tongue shall poison my house. I am Lord of Arden Keep, and my wolves will feast on the bones of those who betray me." Gildred bowed. "Then may the old gods hear you, my lord, and may they stand by you when the snows run red." Night fell heavy over Arden Keep, pressing cold fingers through the cracks in the stone. Kaer moved through the corridors like a ghost. Bran and Oswin followed close behind, their boots muffled on old rugs. They came to the east gate, a narrow iron door set deep in the wall. Outside, in the woods beyond, the Marindor spies waited. "Open it!" Kaer hissed. Bran fumbled with the keys. His hands shook so badly the ring clinked like chains in the dark. Oswin watched the shadows, sword half drawn, every sense strained for an alarm that might come too soon. "Hurry," Kaer said, voice low, sharp. "The night is short and betrayal grows teeth when dawn comes." At last the lock gave way. The iron door groaned open on frozen hinges. Beyond, a figure stepped from the trees, wrapped in Marindor colors, face hidden by a fur-lined hood. Kaer stepped forward, hand out. "Take this gold. Open the gates when the horns sound, and when Rogan's head falls, you'll find the rest waiting." The figure nodded once, then vanished into the night. Bran sagged against the stone wall, breath coming in ragged bursts. "It is done. Gods help us." Kaer's smile showed white teeth in the dark. "The gods are deaf tonight. Only men decide who lives and who dies." Behind him, Oswin sheathed his blade. "What now, my lord?" Kaer turned, cloak sweeping the cold stones. Now we wait for the wolves to bleed." Dawn broke like shattered glass over Arden Keep. Rogan stood atop the battlements, eyes locked on the tree line where mist curled like ghosts. Then the horns sounded, 3 low blasts rolling over the hills like thunder. Soldiers scrambled into position. The portcullis rattled as it dropped. Archers took their place above the gate. Rogan's breath turned to frost. He drew his father's sword and raised it high. "Today," he roared, "no traitor passes these stones. Hold the line, hold the keep, hold your honor." Below, armored shapes emerged from the mist, Marindor banners, black wolves on white silk. The first arrows flew, screams echoed off the stone. Rogan moved down the stairs 2 at a time, cloak whipping behind him. In the courtyard, Gildred met him. "My lord, they bribed the east gate. Some may already be inside." Rogan's eyes burned with fury. "Then hunt them room by room, burn them out if you must." A crash. The main gate shuddered under a battering ram. Rogan spun to the defenders behind him. "Steel and bone, blood and stone, let them break against us like waves against cliffs." The clash began, steel on steel, wolves on wolves. Arden Keep trembled beneath the fury of traitors and true sons. In the hidden tower chamber, Aelin watched the battle through a slit in the stone. She turned back to the circle of runes, her breath steady, her hands slick with sweat and blood. Flames danced around the iron bowl. Shadows flickered on the walls, not hers alone, but things older than the stones. "Hear me," she whispered. "Break the wolf pack, rend their bonds. Crown me in their ashes." The runes glowed brighter, pulsing with each heartbeat. The wind howled through the tower, tearing tapestries from the walls. A voice, low and cold, spoke from the darkness. "You offer blood. What do you sacrifice?" Aelin drew a blade across her palm. "Everything," she hissed. "Take my mercy. Take my fear. Leave me only fire." The flames surged blue and white. The stone floor cracked beneath her knees. Far below, Rogan clashed with armored traitors in the courtyard. And in the shadows, unseen by any man, something ancient stirred. Hungry for oaths, hungry for ruin. Steel rang like thunder. Rogan fought shoulder to shoulder with his bannermen. His blade sang through chain and bone, each stroke a vow kept. Kaer appeared from the smoke, sword in hand, eyes wild with victory and fear. "Brother," Rogan shouted over the clash, "face me and answer for your treachery." Kaer laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "Answer, you were never fit to wear father's crown." They met in the center of the yard, wolf against wolf, steel against steel. Around them, fire licked the walls. Archers fell from the ramparts in screams and arrows. Kaer's blade cut Rogan's arm. Blood splashed the flagstones. Rogan roared and slammed him back with his shield. "I am the Lord of Arden Keep," Rogan bellowed. Kaer spat blood. Not for long. They circled, breathing ragged. Lightning cracked the sky above. Thunder rolled like a drum for war. Kaer lunged, and Rogan drove his sword through his brother's chest. Kaer gasped, eyes wide, fingers clawing at steel. Rogan leaned close, voice like iron. "Wolves do not betray their pack." He pulled the blade free. Kaer fell to the snow, crimson blooming like roses in winter. With Kaer dead, the courtyard fell silent, but for the crackle of fire and the hiss of melting snow. Rogan stumbled, exhaustion and blood loss pulling at him. He looked up at the tower where Aelin's light still flickered. Gildred appeared at his side. "My lord, the traitors flee, the keep stands." Rogan nodded, but his eyes were on the tower. "Then it is not over." He climbed the spiral stairs, boots slipping in his blood. The tower door hung half open, runes glowing like embers. Inside, Aelin stood within her circle, hair whipped by invisible winds, eyes burning like coals. "Sister," Rogan rasped, "what have you done?" Aelin smiled, not with warmth but with triumph. "What you were too weak to do, I made us unbreakable." Shadows coiled at her feet. The runes pulsed brighter, cracking the stones. Rogan lifted his sword, voice hoarse. "Then forgive me, Aelin." He stepped into the circle. The shadows roared, voices from an age before kings. Steel met flesh, fire met blood. Brother and sister, bound by wolves and torn by ambition. And when dawn rose, Arden Keep stood silent beneath falling snow, a kingdom bought by betrayal, blood, and a final whispered promise. Winter is not the end. It is only the waiting.